Inversions cause a lot of confusion, but you gotta know them. It's a very basic building block of music to understand your intervals. And intervals have inversions as well as triads. I'm talking about the intervals right now. Just intervals. Interval, 2 notes. Okay? When you have an interval can ascend, go up. That's an ascending fifth, right? And an interval can descend. Now, typically, when I ascend the interval, nobody puts up a fight when I then afterwards descend it, right? There's an ascending fifth, there's a descending fifth, right? Now, if I were to descend a fifth from this D, then I have to go here. Why? Because the shape of fifth is always going to be this. I call it the 2x1. 2 frets, 1 string, right? So that's the shape of a fifth. That is true anywhere on the bass. It's also true that this is a fifth. Now, look, a lot of people say, but what about this A, right? Isn't that a fifth? If I'm in the key of D, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the A is the fifth inside the key. So the interval I'm playing here, however, is a fourth. So in the key of D, this is the fifth. But in the key of A, this is the fourth. See the difference? So the shape of the interval is always going to be the shape of the interval. Ascending, descending. Ascending fifth, descending fifth. Ascending fifth, descending fifth, right? But the reason why you want to say this is a fifth, it's the fifth inside the key of D if you are in a context. So how do inversions come in? The inversion is that interval that you need to come up to the octave. So let's say, to stay with this example here, the fourth plus the fifth is an octave. These two here form an octave. I'm going up from here to here as a fourth. A, B, C sharp, D. That's A, B, C sharp, D. It's a perfect fourth, okay? And I'm using my fingers because this is how you figure out which interval you're dealing with. You're just counting the letter names. And then you have to figure out, is it major, minor, perfect, diminished, or augmented? You have all these options. From here to here, that's a perfect fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Straight out of the scale, right? And if I were in the scale of A major right now, I would keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a fourth plus a fifth is an octave. They are inversions of each other. The fourth and the fifth are inversions of each other. They make an octave. Now you can imagine if you have a smaller interval on the bottom, then these two here form the octave, right? If you have a smaller interval on the bottom, this interval is going to be bigger. If you have a bigger interval, this interval is going to be smaller, right? And the interesting thing is, even though octave means 8, right? Music math doesn't work that way. So if you have a 4 and a 5, that's 9, last I checked, right? Not 8. So what's up with that? Well, the reason for that is because I'm counting that guy in the middle twice, right? So I got a fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm counting it, and then I go again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I counted this guy twice. Fourth and fifth is an octave. Fourth and fifth is an octave. Fourths and fifths are inversions of each other. And again, in the key of D, this is the fifth, and this is the fifth inside the key of D, right? Because I'm counting 8, 7, 6, 5, right? But if I'm only talking about intervals, then this is a fourth and this is a fifth. Okay, this is a fourth. It's never a fifth. In the key of D, it is the fifth note of the scale. Okay, the interval I'm playing is still a fourth. And let's do a test. A major second, what's the inversion of a major second? Again, when you have inversions, there's always an octave that's framing that interval, right? So you have, let's say, a major second. Now I need to find, what do I need to get to the octave? And there's a formula for that. 2 plus what is 9, right? 2 plus 7 is 9. Okay, so is it a major or a minor second? Major second down here, well, then you're going to have minor seventh here. If it's a minor second down here, you see how that part became bigger just by that spot, the space, right? So a minor second needs a major seventh. Let me play that for you. So here's my A. I'm playing a major second. Now I need a minor seventh. This is the interval of a minor seventh. To get to the octave, correct? Yes. Let's do the same thing with the minor second. Minor second up. Now I should have a major seventh between these. And I do. That's a major seventh, right? And it's also true, the opposite, by the way. If I go up a major seventh from the A, then I have a minor second here just to get me to the octave. If I have a smaller seventh here, meaning a minor seventh plus a major second gives me the octave. Okay, here's another test. Major third, what's the inversion? 3 plus what equals 9? 6. Bottom is major, so the top has to be minor, all right? Let's try it. Major third, minor 6. That's a minor 6. My shortcut for the minor 6 is that it's a perfect fifth plus a half step. It's a perfect fifth that's bigger by a half step. That gives you the minor 6 so you can see it, or you can, if you want, see the fifth here and add the half step here. So this is a minor 6, and this is a major third, and the outside forms an octave. An interval is 2 notes. If an inversion is involved, it's 3 notes because we have an octave on the outside and 2 intervals within it. Why do you need this as a bass player? Oh my gosh, million reasons. For example, instead of playing a third up, a major third up, you can play a minor 6 down, right? Or you also need inversions if, for example, you run out of fretboard. Let's say, for example, you are playing this blues ending. Right? You can play that by playing a minor 6 down or by playing a major third up. Right? So you might run out of strings, and instead of having your third that you're used to up here, you need to know that you want to jump down to that A. Right? It's always going to be the same note after A, right? But there are so many reasons why you want to know inversions. They help you put things in different octaves, play things in different ranges all over the fretboard. You want to know that the inversion of the major second is a minor seventh. You want to know that thirds and sixes go together, fourths and fifths. I mean, there's just so few anyway, you know. Fourths and fifths, you need to know. Thirds and sixes, major and minor. So there's 2 versions of that, and then seconds and sevenths, and that's it, you know, major and minor versions of that. So I hope that clarified it. You want to know your intervals. They create shapes on the fretboard, super useful to know how to best finger them, feel them on the fretboard without always having to look. There's only 12 of them, you know, then there's compound intervals. Those are the ones bigger than an octave, and, you know, that's pretty much it. But you want to know those intervals. You want to understand what the numbers mean. You want to understand how chords are built, extensions, alterations, sus chords, all of that stuff is, you know, you can do when you know your intervals. And a lot of people skip that step. They go straight to, you know, the fancy stuff. You need to know your intervals. You need to know what shapes they make and how to finger them on the fretboard. This will hook you up with all of that. My method is based on pointing out that shapes on the fretboard Lots and lots of diagrams like this, helping you understand how the fretboard is built and how music is put together from the standpoint of the bass. We're not talking too much about reading in this book. And the reason for that is once you understand how music theory works, how the shapes, the triads, the scales, the intervals, how all of that relates to each other and how to put it on the fretboard, reading is much easier. Reading is very important. As a well-rounded musician, you would definitely want to learn how to read chord charts as well as sheet music. But if you understand music theory, you know the fretboard shapes that go with all these triads and extensions and alterations and scales and what have you, then you have a much easier time learning how to read. I'm at arispaceblock.com. Make sure to subscribe there to my blog, and also please hit the like to this video. Cheers.